Now that the Yankees play everyone in the league, we figured it was time to check in on the AL Central and the NL Central and see what they've done during the offseason. Next, on a live edition of Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as always, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Stacey, what's going on?
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
We are live again during the week. It's, January 21st.
Yeah, it's moving along.
We don't have very long before people start showing up to Florida and starting to actually play. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. So as I said at the top, on today's show, we're looking at both the NL and AL Central divisions, to see how the teams have done this offseason. Because now that everyone plays everyone, we need to know what everyone's doing around the league. You know, a few years ago, you can kind of ignore some teams because you'd think, oh, all right, well, we're not playing the NL East, that never happens. We're not playing the NL Central, doesn't matter, who cares? And now everyone plays everyone. So we need to know what's the dealio.
It's a different world, and it's funny because we often talk about how there's so many teams around the league that just don't do anything in the offseason, and it's quite fun to bring it to light because when you start getting the rundown ready for the show and you start actually looking at the transactions page of what these teams do, it's a lot of minor league maneuvering of moving players back and forth and calling them up and down and stuff, but not a lot of major league moves to be done. It's kind of upsetting as a baseball fan.
Yeah, it's the Dodgers and then
the Yankees,
basically. Oh, and the Rangers. The Rangers did some stuff too.
Yeah,
but,
they did a couple things. Yeah,
the main story of the offseason is the Dodgers doing everything and all the other teams fans complaining because their teams don't do anything. And we're going to look at some of the teams that haven't really done anything this offseason.
Yeah. If you guys aren't aware, by the way, more news today, the Dodgers acquired Kirby Yates because why not? Another elite arm in their bullpen. I mean, the fact that they got him is too. The fact that he was still available and no one else got him is insane. But the fact that he went to the Dodgers keeps happening.
It's actually amazing that Kirby Yates is an elite arm because when he was with the Yankees, I used to call him Kirby Yikes because when he came out, it was not great. So I'm glad he's turned his career around and now he's with the defending world champion. So good for him.
Yep, like everybody else in the league. All right, let's get started with the National League Central for this segment. The Milwaukee Brewers. So as we know, they acquired Nestor Cortes Jr. and Caleb Durbin for Devin Williams. I added Caleb Durbin in there because it does feel like he's going to make the major league roster for them. All indications are that he'll be the major league roster. Interesting. I don't think, Stacey, he would have made the Yankee roster. But very good for him that at least he'll be in the major leagues next year.
Yeah, I know some people were thinking that he would just replace Gleyber with Caleb Durbin. And no. And obviously that's not happening now because he's with the Brewers. But I think he has an easier road to the majors with the Brewers than he would with the Yankees at this point.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's one of those Brewers prospects that just wanted to take him off and having an excellent season next year that, we'll remember it. We'll see it. We'll keep track of it for sure. I added this just because it's Yankee related, but they signed Davey Garcia to a minor league deal. If anyone remembers him, he's still around. He's, going to be in a minor league deal with the Brewers. I wouldn't be surprised if he made a major league role at some point if there's injuries to the Brewers. But he's a guy that's interesting because he was a top-tier prospect in the Yankees system, and they really had a lot of faith in him at one point. And boy, Stacey, did his career just fall apart.
They ruined him.
They did. There's a good chance. Yeah, him, the Yankees and J. Happ ruined him.
Yes.
The Brewers also lost Willie Adames. That was a huge one to the San Francisco Giants, and they lost Wade Miley, which is also a big one, and also Devin Williams in the trade. Don't think it's a great offseason for them. You get Nestor, that's fine. They're still a decent team, and their division's not terrific, but don't love the offseason. They lost their best power bat from last season. They lost their best bullpen arm. In the last 3 years, they've lost two of their best bullpen arms. It seems like they're taking a step back a little bit.
Yeah.
The next team is the Cardinals. They're a team that a lot of fans are upset with because they just refuse to do anything, and I don't understand it why.
This is like three seasons now. Like, it's going to be 3 seasons in a row of the Cardinals just being
refusing.
Yeah, it's strange to see because, when you look at the Central in the National League, it used to just be an assumption that the Cardinals were always going to be in it, at least in first, possibly in second, maybe making a wild card, but making the playoffs. And these past 3 seasons, well, I'm including 2025 because I don't expect much from them. But if you loop this season, last season, and the season before, I don't blame them for being disappointed.
It bothers me more as a baseball fan because they are one of the marquee franchises in the sport. And the fact that they just refuse to, they had a few years ago where they were a talented team up and coming, and they just refused to make moves and refused to capitalize on the young talent they had. And now it just feels like they're going right back into that hole. Stacey, they brought in no new players. They didn't make any trades. They didn't make any free agent signings. All they did was lose guys. That's all they did. That's all their transactions. They lost Lance Lynn. They lost Paul Goldschmidt. They lost Kenyon Middleton. They lost Matt Carpenter, who is that's like his Kirby. He was with the Cardinals last year. They lost Kyle Gibson, and they lost Andrew Kittredge. Wow. They've lost and that's a lot of talent that they lost on the team, and likely Nolan Arenado, because I don't know if he's a Yankee, but it looks like he's going to get traded before the season at least starts, or maybe in the middle of the season. Stacey, I mean, you talk about an all-time bad season, off-season. That's pretty bad.
It's one thing for a team not to do something and kind of be like status quo and keep the team as is, but if you're losing that many guys and then not doing anything, that's bad.
Embarrassing. Yeah. Especially, again, for a marquee franchise. This is not, a team that no one cares about doing this. This is a team like the St. Louis Cardinals who, they expected they have a lot of expectations in that city for that team. And to just do nothing it makes no sense at all. A team that had a lively offseason, I'd say, a really fun one, and they're going to be a lot really talked about team. Chicago Cubs. So they traded Cody Bellinger to the Yankees for Cody Petit. We all remember that one. Lose an outfielder, but you gained one of the better outfielders in all of baseball. They traded for Kyle Tucker from the Houston Astros. Houston, we already discussed that on the other side. Losing him is just a disaster for them. They did trade the top prospect in all of baseball, third baseman Isaac Paredes. He'll be on the Astros, and funny, I didn't even think of it that way. Maybe that's one of the reasons the Astros are so comfortable with Alex Bregman leaving, is because they got the top third base prospect in all of baseball. They also got right-handed pitcher Hayden Wesneski and third baseman Cam Smith in the deal. Those are lower-level minor leaguers, still really top-tier prospects. All for Kyle Tucker, who there have been no contract talks with, and they already went to arbitration with. So it doesn't look good there.
Former Yankee prospect Hayden Wesneski, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a I love the deal. I don't love from a Cub perspective. I don't love the Cody Bellinger deal. I don't know what the necessity was to push him out of town, and I don't like how cheap they felt with their money. Acquiring Kyle Tucker and then going to arbitration with him, and apparently there's been nothing close to contract extension talks with him. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Kyle Tucker would even entertain contract talks, because what's the point? Why would you not hit free agency at this point? But for the Cubs to not introduce that conversation is another thing. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I don't know why and then going to arbitration just, is it a big deal? No. But if I was Kyle Tucker, would it leave a sour taste in my mouth? Probably. It's a weird vibe there. They also lost Mike Tauchman in free agency. They lost Drew Smyly, and they lost Kyle Hendricks. So love the acquisitions. Don't love the guys that left the building for the Cubs. So I think they'll be good based on how bad their division is. But I don't know how great they'll be, Stacey.
Yeah. It's not a good thing when you're thinking of, well, if the rest of the division is bad, we can probably sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, because it doesn't look good for your playoff chances at that point.
No.
Cincinnati Reds, they traded Fernando Cruz for Alex Jackson. They made a trade with the Yankees. They actually acquired Jose Trevino. And
so they traded Fernando Cruz and Alex Jackson for Jose Trevino?
For Jose Trevino.
Yeah.
And then they traded Gavin Lux for Mike Sirota. Well, they got Gavin Lux for Mike Sirota. Yeah. Decent offseason for the Reds. No signings still. Weird to me that teams just refuse to spend any money. Not a single cent paid from the Reds. Acquiring Jose Trevino is a nice signing. He'll play every day there. And acquiring Gavin Lux, I think it's a nice signing for him. He'll play in the middle of that lineup. He'll have a lot of opportunities. to get some RBIs and really, I think, show what kind of player he can be. Gavin Lux, if he's the top tier player that was drafted. Don't hate it. Also don't love that they made no moves, though.
Right.
And then let's go to the Pittsburgh Pirates because, they're big spenders. They lost Aroldis Chapman and as Yasmani Grandal, and that's
it. That sounds like the Pirates' typical offseason. Well, I mean, they sign Brian Reynolds last year. Like, they gave him a contract last year. So that's basically the spending that they're going to.
Yeah. It's, we say this all the time, and it's mind-boggling to me how someone roots for these teams. It is. And I sound like a spoiled, rotten Yankee fan saying that. I really do. Because the Yankees have multiple contracts of, 8-9 figures out there. And then they just signed Max Fried this offseason for $200 million. So I sound really spoiled. But boy, if your moves are losing Aroldis Chapman and Yasmani Grandal and then just calling it quits for the offseason, I mean, what is there even to look forward to?
Mm-hmm. Aside from Paul Skeens, but basically.
Oh, they're going to trade him in a year or two, though. So what does it matter?
True. That's true. But they still have a year or two left of watching him do really well. So,
yep.
All right. Well, that was the look at the NL Central. Coming up, we'll be looking at the AL Central. But first, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out lineups during the season. We send out any, trade notifications. So you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. So like I said, coming up, we're going to look at the AL Central this offseason, which is a pretty important division when it comes to the Yankees because, as we know, the Yankees like to beat up on them in the playoffs. So how are things going to look in 2025? Find out next.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me because I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for all of your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and lowers your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton of money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath our videos during the week, or you can join Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. That gets you top priority during Fan Mail Friday. The link for that is in our description. So, Stacey, the American League Central, like you said, a division the Yankees often beat up on and like to get fat on during the regular season. So hopefully they can do that again this year. And there's going to be opportunity, too, because, again, like a constant theme around the rest of baseball, not a lot of these teams wanted to do much. A team that was very active generally is, and I fully expect to probably win the division again. And there's a team in this division that I'm really upset with. Cleveland Guardians. They traded Miles Straw to the Blue Jays for cash considerations. They signed Carlos Santana, bringing the former Guardian great back to town. They traded Josh Naylor to the Diamondbacks. They re-signed Shane Bieber to that one-year deal that, God, I wish the Yankees would have done. Mm-hmm. And they traded Andres Jimenez to the Blue Jays. So a lot of transactions between the Blue Jays and the Guardians, weirdly enough. Like the move for the Blue Jays. We'll go over the AL East next week. But, Stacey, I don't hate what the Guardians did. Bringing back Shane Bieber, you get rid of Naylor, but you bring in Santana, who was one of the top looked at guys. You bring in Andres Jimenez. You trade him away. I don't think it's a terrible offseason for the Guardians. And with the way the division is, it doesn't seem like it's that far-fetched that they can win this division again.
Yeah, again, like I said with the NL Central, it feels like these teams are thinking in their heads, well, the rest of the division isn't doing much, so if we just make some moves but nothing too major and don't shake things up too much, maybe we can sneak our way back into the playoffs or make it harder for someone else to make it into the playoffs kind of thing. And you don't want baseball to be... No. You don't want a team to be run like that. You want them to be more like, let's go after these guys and build up our team. Like,
in reality,
They made it to the ALCS last year.
Yeah, and you'd think that they would capitalize on that, and you're the final two teams in the American League, and instead they seem like to not do that. I don't get it very much, especially with the lack of spending money. It's not like the Cleveland Guardians don't make money, especially after making a playoff run last year. Yeah. Plenty of money around, and they just don't want to do anything with it. Don't really get it at all. This is a team, Stacey, that I'm very, very upset with because they made it to the ALDS last year, had an awesome year. A lot of the young players are making a lot of big moves in the league, and they decided to celebrate their offseason by doing nothing. Don't get it at all. The Kansas City Royals, they lost Tommy Pham, they lost Will Smith, they lost Yuli Gurriel, they lost Robbie Grossman, they lost Paul DeJong, they lost Mike Lorenzen. They did nothing. I don't get it. I don't know how you can't bring these players back. I don't know how you can't make signings. I don't know how you can't make trades. Not that I understand it, not that I agree with it. I get the Cincinnati Reds not doing anything. I get the Minnesota Twins, the Chicago White Sox, name team that doesn't have a lot of upside to it. I get those teams not doing anything. Do I agree with it? No. Do I understand why they do it? Yeah. A team like the Kansas City Royals, I can't remotely comprehend. When you're at a chance where you can win, where there's a chance they can win the division next year, and you decide to do nothing in your offseason with young talent, like it almost feels like they gave Bobby Witt Jr. that extension. They got him to sign it. He's there for the next 12 years. That's it. We're out. People are going to buy tickets.
It almost feels like Mike Trout with the Angels. Like they tried, like they sort of try to do things, but it never works for them. And
but at least they got Ohtani. At least they got Anthony Rendon. Like at least they've made moves. They've been involved with big time players. The Royals, they gave Bobby Witt Jr. $180 million. It's not like they didn't spend any money on him. They gave him a big deal. But it almost feels like they signed him, considered that, all right, that's the reason people to go to our games for the next decade. And that's it. We'll watch him hit 40 home runs over the next decade and steal, 40 bases. And that's it. You don't really care. When you have a bunch of young talent like this and you refuse to make moves as a fan base, I don't know how you don't revolt against this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And, they want to build the new stadium and do all this stuff. And for what? Who's going to want to go to a new stadium to watch a team that's not going to do much if you're not going to sign people?
Yeah, it's crazy. There needs to be a lot of new owners in baseball. I think it would be really good for the sport. Let's go to the Detroit Tigers. They're an interesting team. Obviously, they make was it AL? No, they went to the ALDS. I thought they were going to be in the CS, to be honest with you, but went to the ALDS. We're a hard-fought team. They obviously have one of the best young pitchers in the entire league, and former, now reigning AL Cy Young winner in Skubal. But they signed Gleyber Torres to a 1-year deal. Me and you both kind of reiterated that we liked that deal for the Tigers. Kind of wish the Yankees would have done it for that 1 year, if that's what it took. They signed Alex Cobb. I think it's a nice back end of their rotation addition for them. And they signed Wilmer Flores, who is a nice veteran presence in that lineup. I don't hate what they did. I don't. They're apparently still very involved in the Alex Bregman rumors. Yeah. I think if they get him, it makes their offseason really, really good. But this is a young team with some offensive pop in their bats and some good young pitching. I like where they're headed. And, if you're a gambler out there, I don't hate a bet on the Tigers to win this division next year.
I would agree with that. I think that they're on the upswing, making it as far as they made it to the playoffs and just losing in such a heartbreaking, unbelievable fashion, especially with who was on the mound and what happened. But, they got that taste of it, and they're one of the teams in the Central that's still on the upswing.
Yeah, and I feel like, too, when you have a heartbreaking loss like that, and when you get the taste of victory, it makes you come back the next year stronger more often than not. You're more motivated. You're more focused. So, also, fair to say, me and you don't like this guy, and it's totally justified to not like him. But I do think it needs to be mentioned because I'm going to have trouble saying this, but it's the truth. The manager for the Detroit Tigers, who had, what's his name? Why am I forgetting? AJ
Hinch.
AJ Hinch. Yeah. Why his name was escaping my mind, but we're not going to like him because we're Yankee fans. I totally get it. And Yankee fans in our mentions are not going to like it because they're Yankee fans and because of what he was involved with. But the job that he has done in Detroit to get this team from being a perennial loser to now being one of the top tier teams. I mean, in the American League, are there 5 teams better than them? No. And to have them where they are right now as a much better team, I know their prospects were really good, but Stacey, this is an incredible job that he's done since bringing him in. Really is.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
We don't have to like him, but he's done a great job. The Minnesota Twins, they're known for being big spenders, right? They brought in Carlos Correa. That was the first time they really made a big move in a long time. Last offseason, they now lose Max Kepler, lose Carlos Santana, lose Manuel Margot, do nothing. So another team that just decided to bring in no players, they didn't make any trades.
They also fell apart at the end of the year. It was a nightmare for the Twins in 2024.
And there's a lot of rumors around them possibly shipping off Carlos Correa, which is not great either. So, again, another hard team to root for. And then we go to the hardest team possibly to root for in all of sports, the Chicago White Sox. Now, you've highlighted many times the upsetting nature of the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf owns the team, along with the Chicago Bulls, by the way, and just refuses to spend any money at all. Doesn't refuse, and in one of the bigger markets in all of sports, refuses to make any moves. Stacey, they did make one signing, which is more than a couple teams can say actually in the major leagues. True. They signed Mike Tauchman to a 1-year, $1.9 million deal. So he stays in Chicago. I'm sure he had no problem signing with them. Yeah, didn't have to move or anything like that. They lost Yoan Moncada. Remember, they got in the Chris Sale trade, which was he was the top prospect in all of baseball at that time. They lost Chris Flexen, they lost Mike Soroka, and they lost Mike Clevenger. So good work out of them. They acquired nobody. They acquired one player. They made no trades. They made no. I don't get it either. This is another one that I'll never understand. I don't know why there's a willingness for losing there. There's almost like a motivation for losing there. And if you're Mike Tauchman, I hope the only reason you signed there was because the market was low. Because if not, I don't know what the motivation would be to sign there.
So over under losses.
Let's see. It's definitely over 100.
Yeah,
they're definitely going to lose 100 games.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being as bad as it was last year. Could you?
I don't think it would be as bad as 2024.
I mean, that was an all-time losing season.
Yeah, I'm thinking somewhere between 103 and 107.
That's a terrible year. I honestly think you're being generous. I want to look up what they
really. You think it's going to be more than that? You think it's going to be closer to 121 than 100?
Well, Stacey, their over under for wins next year in all the sports books is 53.
Oof,
53. So I mean, they're telling you they think they're going to lose 109 games.
Well, I was close, 103 to 107.
Oh yeah, you were. Oh wow, that is just. I mean, daunting. How do you go into a year like that? 53 wins. Oof. What was the losing streak last year? Because it was all time bad, right? It was 21 games, 19 games.
Yeah, I don't think it was all time bad because I think didn't the Orioles start off a year?
No, they almost hit the all time. I think they fell like 2 games short of the all time record for losses in a row.
Yeah.
Oof. Bad.
All right. Coming up next, coaches announced for the Yankees, and there are some familiar faces in that list. So we'll be talking about that next.
So, Stacey, let me tell you guys all about FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on the favorite team or just looking for some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. You can get Chiefs Super Bowl bets in if you think they're going to win the AFC Championship game. And I like the Commanders. A little sprinkle on the bet for them to win the Super Bowl could be very profitable. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's all available on FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel. It's an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Stacey, welcome back. The Yankees announced coaches that are going to be added to the staff for next year. Very interesting. Didn't know this announcement was coming out today, but they decided to slowly leak it randomly on a Tuesday. Very weird dump they had. But manager Aaron Boone, as we know, we have our opinions on that. It's no need to go diving into it at this point. We knew he was coming back. So there's that. Bench coach Brad Ausmus, like what he's done with the team, and pitching coach Matt Blake. is going to be I mean, we knew Matt Blake was coming back, but there's something to be said about Matt Blake with the way that he reinvents pitchers, with the way that he gets bullpen guys to get more out of him than they expected. I think starters too. I've loved Matt Blake since they've brought him in, but you can't not like what he's done since being the Yankee pitching coach, right?
Yeah, I always joke about wanting to take flyers on certain guys because I believe Matt Blake can fix them because he's like the pitching whisperer.
Mm-hmm. They obviously stole him from Vanderbilt, I believe, right? He was the expert pitching coach there, and then winds up, and that's one of the top baseball, college programs the country has. So you've just seen, I've seen a lot of good things with Matt Blake, especially with, again, bullpen arms, reinventing what those guys can do. I've loved everything he's done to become a Yankee pitching coach.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just run through more of these and we'll see if there's any observations. I don't think we're going to have many because, I mean, you don't know anything about the coaches and what they're going to be able to do, but we'll see if there are already observations. Bullpen coach Mike Harkey, assistant pitching coach Preston Clayborn, hitting coach James Rosen, assistant hitting coach Casey Dykes and Pat Rosler, third base and outfield coach Luis Rojas is back, first base and infield coach and director of the infield Travis Chapman, whatever that title is, director of the infield, and major field coordinator and director of catching Tanner Swanson.
I'm very happy to see Preston Clayborn Esquire, as my friends called him. We called him that when he was on the Yankees briefly in the early 2010s. I saw his name and I was like, he sounds like a Southern lawyer in a movie about a case in the South. And when I saw him on the coaching staff, because he had worked his way up, I was so excited. I was like, yes, Preston Clayborn Esquire is assistant pitching coach. How cool.
Yeah, I love the titles they give these managers.
Director of the infield is very interesting.
Yeah, first base, infield coach, and director of the infield. Like, what is he? Major.
He didn't do a very good job directing them last year if he was the director of the infield.
No, and Tanner Swanson, major league field coordinator and director of catching. There's not a catching coach. There's a director of catching. Weird.
Cool. So why isn't Matt Blake the director of pitching?
I don't know. He's just a pitching coach.
They should just call him pitching guru.
Yeah, right. I don't get it at all. These titles they give the managers and coaches
they sound like AI titles. Like they just decided to throw it into something and say talk to.
Maybe the Yankees social media department did do that. Maybe they put it in like a
GPT, and they're like, okay, give us a new name instead of catching coach. Give us a new name. Director
assistant
of catching.
To the manager. Like it's very, very, very odd what they're doing with this. It feels like they're trying to make some of these positions feel a little more official than they actually are. Like just give the guy that he's working for the Yankees. He's one of the coaches on the Yankees. It's official enough. It doesn't need to be sound more official than it actually is.
When I was working at NBC, I was technically a sales assistant. I worked for account managers. I input the orders to the stations. I was an assistant. Sure. But they called us customer service reps, and it used to drive me crazy because I didn't feel like a customer service rep. I felt like a sales assistant, but all of my cards said it. I was CSR, and it drove me crazy. So I would tell people outside of the business that I was a sales assistant, but everyone knew me as a customer service rep because that's what
I guess these guys might have a point then. Do you think Tanner Swanson, when he walks into like Chili's with his family on a Friday night, do you think when they ask him what he does for a living, and he says, "Oh, I'm actually the major league field coordinator and director of catching for the New York Yankees"? Does that sound impressive to you or no? Because I don't think it sounds impressive to me.
It sounds goofy. Do other teams have these titles? We have to find this out because this sounds like something new, and this sounds very 2025 where everything is overblown.
No one's announced their coaching staffs yet. The Yankees are the only team to do it so far.
But we have to look through like the websites and see how everyone is listed, because I'm pretty sure it's catching coach, bullpen coach, pitching coach, infield coach, outfield coach. There's no directing of infielding.
Yeah. Well, also just announced coaching news too. The Dodgers have signed Tony La Russa, and they've brought the corpse of Connie Mack to manage their team, like Dave Roberts. Because why would anyone else not be signed with the Dodgers at this point?
Yeah, like I think we need to, I wish that we were more of a rival with the Dodgers because we're not. It's just if you play them in the World Series, then you're kind of a rival with them. But other than that, who cares? So I want the other people who play them, the hosts of teams that play them more often, do some sort of a goof, like, 0 days since the Dodgers signed someone kind of thing.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure that I was thinking about that too recently when you said it. I wonder if that rivalry will be fabricated by like New York media and stuff.
Oh, when they play in is it June or May when they play in LA?
I believe
It's
it's
gonna
in
be
June. Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be. I already have an idea for the titles of the episodes to
and
get
they're gonna
them.
fabricate some Yankee Dodger because
Oh no,
I know that's what's coming. Like they're gonna fabricate some Yankee Dodger rivalry that doesn't exist.
oh no, I'm already so excited because it's June and because of the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef of spring 2024. I already
Okay.
have a 6, whatever the date is, in LA as a title idea, like Kendrick's diss song, because the Yankees and Dodgers and MLB made it like they put it on a T for me. And people are going to see that and be like, oh, what's this? And click on it. And our views are going to go up.
They're already apparently everyone loved that fact that we talked about the Dodgers yesterday because I mean everybody's the views are crazy high for the Dodgers episode yesterday when we talked about the comparison to them and the Yankees off
Yeah, for
seasons.
a Monday at the end of January for our show to get over 5,000 views and over 110 comments, which I didn't look at. I'll tell you right now, I was
I don't want
terrified to
to.
even look. I don't want to look. No.
I'm going to anyway, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to. After we sign off from here momentarily, I'm going to edit the audio version of this show for our listeners and maybe look at the pinned comment from Monday's show to see if anyone left any Fan Mail Friday questions. But other than that, I am not scrolling any farther down than I'm afraid. We didn't say anything bad, but I just know
No.
how they see the title, they see the thumbnail, they automatically think we're going to trash the Dodgers, which we did not do. If you listen to the entire segment.
I mean, you know how sports fans work. Without listening, they're
Yeah,
just going to
and
go
I know how
online
YouTube works. If you listen to 2 seconds, you're going to think, oh, they're going to, and you're jealous, you're this, you're that,
very excited.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So thank you guys for joining us. Let's just see. There's a comment here. No, Fat Joe is not allowed to be anywhere
Absolutely
near.
not. I don't want him in the Bronx anymore.
No, he can go to New Jersey. He can't.
Yeah.
No, we can't have him around anywhere. He was at a Knick game a couple weeks ago and they got their butts kicked. I was like, no, why is he at any sporting events?
Well, that is his thing. He does go to Knick games often. I think he's grandfathered into that one, but absolutely not for the Yankees. No.
By the way, people who are listening, Nando 390 said Fat Joe to sing Yankees opening day 2025. So that's what we were at. No more Fat Joe.
Yeah,
you're not allowed.
No, I'm good.
No
more Yankee tickets for him.
Nope. Give me his Yankee tickets so I can go to games. No more tickets for Fat Joe. So thank you. Wow, my voice went really high. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, you can find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. On tomorrow's show, I'm sure we'll be talking about CC Sabathia making the Hall of Fame. The vote is going to be announced in a few hours, and he was way above 90%, so he's definitely going to go in. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, among other things. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you tomorrow.